Sup, motherfuckers? You guys are in luck, because this is a rather special episode, and it concerns one of the old Sonic comics' most iconic stories. Yeah, you fucking guessed it. It's Mecha Madness. Only one of the most memorable Sonic Archie comics issues ever. Only, I'm afraid it comes with a catch. Because its entire saga continues into 2 really long issues, I don't think I should cram it all into one video. Not like my stubborn lesser self would. So, screw it. I'm making this the first part in an ongoing series, dedicated to reviewing this goddamn behemoth. And anyone who thinks otherwise can suck my... Am I not supposed to question this? Hey! Good day all, Mimi McMeme-face here, and I'm back on my bullcrap. Don't fucking swear. I didn't What fans call the Mecha Madness saga began with a surprisingly well-received cover story. It involved the blue hedgehog himself being roboticized and turned into a mecha version of himself. That's metal as hell. Get it? Because he's a robot? This story proved to be so popular with fans that the very next single-issue special had a continuation of the story, where Knuckles the Echidna joins the fray and also became a robot. And even more super awesome fight scenes ensued. They include a lot of panels involving robots beating the crap out of each other, which is certainly a remarkable thing to have in an action-based comic book. But why is Mecha Madness remembered so well? Perhaps it was due to how it came out in an era when Archie's most popular brand never tried to be anything more than cheap newspaper comics. Like, if you go from Sonic making lousy puns about trees, to the point where his speech bubbles occupied 2 entire panels, to him being turned into a robot and causing a deadly stir amongst the lives of the freedom fighters, hell yeah, that would be memorable. But is it though? Well, that's what I'm here to find out for myself, by reviewing both the issue this story first came up in, and then the single issue special it came after, and then issue number 40 afterwards, considering it deals with the aftermath of the mess Mecha Sonic causes. Yeah, you're on your own with that, mate. Come back when no one watches your videos because it's plus 30 minutes long. Honestly, I don't make them that long. You gotta make something the meat and potatoes of the video, am I right?
No.
Nobody asked you, Hexbot. Anyways, on to the show. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. In this video, I'm going to read issues 39 and 40 of the Archie Sonic comics, as well as the Mecha Madness special. Number 39's cover is really cool. I'm serious. I think this was perhaps the best cover the Archie Sonic comics had in the mid-90s. Spaz does a really good job on these specific details. Not only on Mecha Sonic himself, but also the multiple Sonic heads that litter the background. I guess it's a record of all of Sonic's personality traits being loaded into his roboticized self. But what kind of personality is this meant to be? Oh god. It's nice that Spaz gets to pencil the art too. In Rage Against the Machine, Sonic's spinning around Freedom HQ and being a general nuisance. He's come up with the perfect plan to have himself be captured and be roboticized. But it'll be okay because he'll have one of Rota's Nero overriders to let him keep his free will. Sounds like a good plan, if it wasn't already attempted by Princess Sally before. Seriously, it's the exact same premise, right down to Rota's Nero overriders being a thing. Bunnie also wants to help out, but they kind of just shoot down her suggestion. Poor girl. Everyone else disagrees with Sonic's plan, because, again, Mecha Sally. And so, he decides to go over to the Knothole gym to blow off some steam. Unbeknownst to him, however, a mysterious fanged sniper is there waiting for him. Yep, Knack the Weasel is still making deals with Dr. Robotnik to hand him over, I guess. Was the prison he was sent to last time made of cardboard or something? Speaking of which, the villain himself is... what the heck? Is that the script? Anyway, Dr. Robotnik has Sonic in his clutches, at long last. But when Knack asks for his pay, the foul villain just turns his henchman into a giant version of a crab. Never seen Crabmeat do this before. I wonder why he never used this before. I don't know, writer Mike Gallagher has been ever consistent in his inconsistencies. Anyway, the unthinkable has happened, and we get a nice page of the process of Sonic being chucked into the roboticizer, having his eyes painfully transformed into sleek metal, and him bursting out from the other side as the long-eared, gold gauntlet-wearing Mecha Sonic. And yeah, I'll admit his design is pretty neat. It's kind of like a mix between Metal Sonic the character and that Mecha Sonic from Sonic and Knuckles. Choom! Mecha Sonic proves to be powerful enough to completely total Crabmeat, or Robotnik's former employee of the month. Stay classy, Gallagher. And so Mecha Sonic is tasked with going back to Knothole to decimate the hidden village and finally end the freedom fighters. God damn. Thankfully, the heroes came prepared in case Sonic screwed up on his mission, but that doesn't last long. They can only hold him back with gadgets for so long. If only they had a member of the freedom fighters capable of taking him on with their own firepower. Holy heck, it's Bunnie Rabot. And might I add, this issue does wonders in showing off just how capable of a fighter she is. For real, these panels are pretty freaking sweet to read. Gallagher's corny dialogue doesn't even get in the way, it's so cool. While interesting fight scenes ensue, Tails is at mission control, transmitting a mayday message to the floating island. That can only mean one thing. They're gonna try and get the help of Big the Cat. There's also another joke regarding Tails wanting to be treated as an adult, but Sally still reminds him to wash his hands and brush his teethies. Yeah. Eventually, Dr. Robotnik makes it so Mecha Sonic electrocutes Bunnie, which puts her out of commission for a little bit. And I really mean a little bit, because she gets right back up in the next page to continue the fight. She even brings up her Uncle Beauregard, and one of his supposedly well-known quotes, "The South shall rise again." Oh dear. But trust me, he becomes much important later. Anyway, Bunnie comes in with a high-power laser cannon, which gives us one hell of an awesome splash page. But Mecha Sonic has a bigger one and sends Bunnie crashing down once again. Is there anyone else around to help save Knothole from the traitor Sonic? Knock knock, this is Knuckles. Man, he's so cool, he's just... oh wait, never mind, he's down too. So, with Mecha Sonic still on the loose, and him intending to decimate not only Knothole but also Knuckles' home of Angel Island, it seems all hope is lost. However, Sally has one last plan, Operation Last Resort. What is it exactly? Wait until the single issue special to find out if anybody comes out alive, I guess. The story and narrative is pretty alright. The setup requires one character to be pretty dumb, that's Sonic, and even then the setup has been done before in a previous issue. There's a lot of typical recurring Gallagher tropes, such as Tails being treated as a kid, Antoine being the butt of jokes all the time, Robotnik repeatedly trashing his swapbots one way or another. They're pretty much once an episode in this case. The character writing is nothing much to write home about either, but what really caught my eye, and what clearly had to be the most effort put into it, was the fight scenes involving Mecha Sonic and Bunnie. Holy heck, these panels were so well paced, and even the dialogue didn't distract me too much from it. It's especially awesome seeing Bunnie show off her awesome fight skills, proving she's the best of the freedom fighters when it comes to combat. Usually the only one in this limelight is Sonic. All in all, I enjoyed the stuff in it. I'd say the score for the story of number 39 gets a 4. Spaz was the penciler for this issue, and good god did I miss his art. While he usually draws the covers, it's great that he got to flesh out his style and the penciling. I especially love the way he drew Mecha Sonic. Dare I say, this character wouldn't be half as memorable if he was drawn by one of the other artists. Like, I bet you, if Mawini drew him, he'd probably just look less blocky and more like a reskinned Sonic costume. Like how he drew Sally in that previous issue, where it was just Sally but with like screws and metal stuff. But yeah, massive fan of the art, so it gets a near perfect 4. Final score for issue number 39 of the Sonic Archie comics gets an 8 out of 10. Not bad for a first start, but it does have a follow-up story in the single issue special, officially called Sonic and Knuckles Mecha Madness. I guess this is the one that everyone's been looking forward to, so let's give this a look. Golly, this cover is freaking full of focal points, isn't it? I mean, the cover story involves Mecha Sonic and Mecha Knuckles having a full-on brawl, and all things considered, that's what I'm here for. But there's also multiple characters superimposed over the fight, and they all kind of blend in with the background, which is currently on fire. Well, we got a lot of pages to go through, so let's start with the first of the 3 stories. Mecha Madness. So, Princess Sally has a plan to deal with Mecha Sonic before he trashes Knothole. Oh look, it's too late. He's already setting fire to the bloody place. I mean, thankfully the premise has been evacuated, but still, this looks like a win for Dr. Robotnik. Oh wait, Sally's got the old roboticizer, and Rota even remarks that it's the same one that they saved Bunnie Rabot from. God damn. I didn't expect Gallagher to have this level of consistency between issues. Anyway, that seems to be Sally's plan, to have another roboticized Mobian fight Mecha Sonic, essentially fighting fire with fire. The plan seems to involve Knuckles, but he's kind of, out of it at the moment, to the point where he starts fighting his allies. He even sees Rota and sees how he's overweight, so he thinks he's Robotnik, and he punches him. Stop making fat jokes, Gallagher. It doesn't take long for Sally to whip the red lad into shape, and he gets a freaking kick into the face. And that's all well and good, but what comes next is weird. Knuckles seems to recall the feeling of Sally's kick, and then it's suddenly implied that the two shared a past together. Was she a past fling? They talk about how their dads both met in the past. Don't worry, they elaborate on that in the spin-off comic. So Knuckles is freaking gung-ho about turning into a robot to stop Mecha Sonic, and show the treacherous Mobian what for. It's kind of humorous at how eager the red jelly bean is to be roboticized. Meanwhile, Mecha Sonic is fighting Tails and intending to down him with his arm lasers, but he has a moment of clarity and hesitates. His reluctance to maim his former little buddy gets so bad that Dr. Robotnik has to call him and yell at him over the phone to continue his mission. He is also about to share the coordinates of the secret village of Knothole when, fricking bam, Mecha Knuckles is here. The following spectacle is so grand that every freedom fighter present has their own comment on it. It's so dramatic. Eventually, the fight leads towards Robotnik City, just down the road of Knothole apparently, where Mecha Sonic intends to finish off his red opponent. But then it gets to the point where they're both heading straight towards the city, and you can guess what ensues after the impact. Yeah, a freaking nuclear cloud. In the ruins, the villain emerges from a bomb shelter, proving himself to still be alive despite the middle part of his city being in complete and utter shambles. Mecha Knuckles is also still here, and he rescues Sonic from the villain rebuilding him. It's implied that the old roboticizer used on him made him even stronger than Robotnik's current models, but Anyway, Mecha Sonic is returned to his friends in Knothole, albeit in less than stellar shape, and Sally hugs Mecha Knuckles, despite the fact that he's close to short-circuiting himself. Nicole is able to de-roboticize Sonic, thanks to the fact that he possessed his 1 billionth power ring. Oh yeah, it happened in issue number 45, and it was freaking surreal. Everything seems to be back to normal, with both of our heroes being back to their flesh and blood selves, but Sonic and Knuckles are, once again, not on good terms with each other. The latter flies back to Angel Island after getting into another argument with the Blue Blur. Sally also says more stuff that implies that she had secret feelings for Knuckles, which is, again, rather odd all of a sudden. The story does, however, have a pretty grim cliffhanger, if you can call it that. Despite not being in the right mind, Sonic is held accountable for his crimes as Mecha Sonic, considering he willingly roboticized himself. Both Sally and Antoine are pretty adamant in charging Sonic for treason. As much as our heroes wish to deny it, it is technically his fault for the destruction of Knothole and parts of Robotropolis, and that's where the cover story ends. The other stories I'm not going to give much thought. In Don't Let the Island Hit You on the Way Back Down, the Chaotix are faced off against a team of mercenaries on the floating island. Who are they exactly? Well, they consist of Sergeant Simeon, this big musclehead who probably only exists for this pun here, Predator Hawk, a blue bird dude, SBO runs into this swift-looking lightning lynx guy, and there's also Flying Frog. He likes rhyming. Yeah, these bad guys aren't very interesting at this point in the comics. However, the reason this fearsome foursome was brought together was to fight the Chaotix, and it was all concocted by this new villain. His name is Mammoth Mogul. He's kind of like the Kingpin, except that he's a mammoth, and he's also like thousands of years old. He also likes to monologue, and by God does he talk a lot. In the first issue he appears in, he explains his past, and how he was but a simple caveman, until a Chaos Emerald came into his possession and gifted him limitless power, and then he ruled the world or something. This is kind of neat, a villain who has existed for over a millennia and has plotted in the background all that time. It's a shame he only appears here as a generic bad guy, and just as soon as he's introduced, and shortly after a small beating, The mammoth disappears with his 4 mercenaries and leaves the chaotix in the dust. All they can do is shake their fists up at the escaping villain, with their deformed looking bodies. Bloody hell, Mikado Keijo could have done a much better job with the art. The last story stars the 40 Fathoms Freedom Fighters. Yeah, that team of fish that appeared in the Tales miniseries. They apparently meet a villain even more terrible than that of Octobot, and that's Eel Capone. And the heroes are assisted by a martial arts dolphin, referred to as a Finja warrior. Yeah, we're done here. The continuation of the Mecha Sonic story wasn't too bad. It was more of an excuse for Mecha Knuckles to appear, really. However, I can say that it was leagues better than the 2 other stories that came with it, which existed simply as filler, or just to set up new villains for the mainline series. Also, Knuckles and Sally? What the hell was that all about? But yeah, the fight scenes were good. Story and characters, due to how much it was lower in quality, deserves a 3. Spaz couldn't save it this time, I'm afraid. I don't know, I loved his art and how dynamic the fight scenes were, but I still felt his art was best used in the other issue. The panels involving the 2 roboticized heroes were neat, but everything else was less stylized and more deformed. For example, the way he drew characters' heads with their mouths in the middle of a large empty spot on their faces? Yeesh, this certainly does not hold up. The art seen in the other 2 were even less up to snuff. Mikado Keijo did the best he could, but the panels were still pretty badly drawn, and any fight scenes looked pretty unremarkable. Like, look at this, you can't even feel the impact of that, just... Which is bad when the fight scenes are the crux of the story's existence. Dave Manick, I don't know, I'm starting to get a bit tired of seeing his art in uninspired stories, be it in the mainline series or as side comics. Can the comics just evolve from his art already? Art overall, I will say, gets a 2. Final score for the single issue special gets a 5 out of 10. Yeah, sorry I rated it lower than number 39. I know a lot of people like this issue for its mecha fights, but to me, it didn't quite capture the downtime between fights, you know? The one with Mecha Sonic on its own was better, and the story should have concluded in there too, instead of having to be brought into a long, extensive special. Alright, one more to go. This last issue isn't technically a part of the Mecha Sonic saga, but it does detail what happened after Sonic is tried for treason. For last, let's give Sonic the Hedgehog number 40 a read, shall we? The cover for this one has Sonic clinging to Knack's arm while they are in mid-flight. I love the angle, and all of the detail into the background and the flying mobile, but both of their expressions leave me confused. Knack looks more like he's giving Sonic a friendly lift here, rather than what I assume to be Sonic putting a stop to him while being nervous of how high up they are. Spaz is usually great with exaggerated expressions, so I'm not exactly sure what it is that keeps putting me off. Instead of any sort of splash page, we have a retelling of the events of number 39 and the Mecha Madness special. It details that Knack ambushed the titular hedgehog and gave him to the evil Dr. Robotnik and roboticized him, and we know what happens, I literally just talked about them. And in the end, Sonic is now incarcerated, slammed into the jailhouse by his very friends. Well, most of them are pretty indifferent. Antoine, however, seems to be the most strong-minded about having the hedgehog tried as a prisoner. He's actually quite villainized in these issues now that I come to think about it. What with him wanting Sonic out of the picture so that he can honour himself and continue his crush on Princess Sally. Not to mention that time where he and the substitute freedom fighters decided to beat up an amnesiac hedgehog. I mean, I know it's all to get back at the years of ridicule and pranks that Sonic made him endure, but still, at least we get to see Amy Rose again in this comic. She's been pretty underused since the Sonic CD adaptation. It's kind of funny that she's the only one vouching to fight for Sonic's rights, especially in the form of a single-person protest rally. In the meantime, Knothole is currently being rebuilt, as the old King Acorn had a backup plan to replace most of their equipment in case they were destroyed. It's nice that he planned ahead on that, even though he is currently trapped in the zone of silence right now due to not being prepared for the villainous betrayal. Sally's not feeling too great about that either. That and the fact that the hedgehog she secretly loves is being tried for treason, and her being forced to court-martial him, it's all very tough on the poor girl. At the trial proper, Sonic is being judged by those 2 kangaroo dudes from that random Sonic Spinball adaptation, whom of which Gallagher thankfully does away with those obnoxious Australian accents. And Antoine is, of course, the prosecutor in this court, and the potential punishment for our hero is banishment. Yeah guys, go banish the main hero, you'll do great without him. Jesus, Antoine isn't the only one getting shown in a negative light in this issue. We get a load of Bunnie here, who's acting as the guard of the prisoner and threatening to use a freaking buzzsaw on him if he doesn't settle down. The witnesses are all called, and each of them are treated to Antoine's increasingly more aggressive questioning. Amy Rose gets badgered by Antoine when he gets to her. I thought that was a pretty funny pun. And then Antoine gives his own thoughts as a witness himself, because he's so full of himself that the prosecutor just goes onto the witness chair apparently. And that's where Sonic comes in to give the court his side of the story. Sonic goes on to talk about Knack the Weasel, the guy who framed him for his crime, and whose cell next to his was left empty, and the one who guarded his cell, Antoine, did not even notice because he was too busy planning his own coronation. This has the Coyote begging for mercy before Princess Sally, who seems more than a little irritated at Antoine's incompetence. Sonic also wants this to be over right now, and he asks her to uncuff him, but in that very next panel, the Kangaroo Court finds the Hedgehog guilty of his crimes regardless. Golly, this still isn't going well for him. However, with Sonic asking Sally to allow him to prove himself innocent, she decides to put a delay on his sentencing, a 24-hour one to be exact, and Sonic's off to the races to prove himself not guilty. The others also have his coordinates so that they can keep track of him, but they're not the only ones keeping an eye on Sonic. While his city is in the process of being rebuilt, Dr. Robotnik makes idle threats about stopping that hedgehog, as well as bringing up a secret plot that he has hatched for the readers to hear. Sonic finds himself in the Robo-Hobo jungle, where decommissioned badniks end up living, I suppose. So our hero takes on familiar enemies in the middle of this death trap. Golly, even crab meat's here. But after he deals with them, he demands to know where Knack is located, and pretty soon he finds his landmark. A lovely and not very detailed looking establishment called the Bottom of the Barrel Bar and Grill. After some hijinks that I wouldn't care go over, except to say that a gorilla was involved, Sonic finds the guy who did him dirty. Of course, even he won't come quietly. But eventually, Sonic is able to outdo him, and send his little hoverbike back to Dr. Robotnik so that he can self-destruct it, and give the readers another panel of cartoon explosions, I guess. So, Sonic has finally cleared his own name, brought Knack back to his confinement, again, and Sonic's back to being the respectable key member of the freedom fighters he always is. Even his and Sally's feelings are back, though they still haven't been truly honest with their feelings for each other. And then they stop to see Antoine and his coronation parade still in preparations. I guess we had to end it on something. It's not exactly funny, is it? I do kind of hate it when Mike Gallagher has to write a full 24-page story, because I'm pretty bloody certain his best works are kept as small as possible. There was a little bit too much meandering, especially in the last third. Like, the courtroom setting made sense being so slow-paced. It was a serious moment with little touches of comedy sprinkled on top. Again, the badgering joke was hilarious, though the fat jokes are still pretty common in his writing. Never really been a fan of that. But the pages that had Sonic go to the old Badnik scrapyard, and the pub he found Knack chilling at, both of those had scenes of slapstick and fighting that kind of went on for a bit too long. It had me pretty exhausted in the end. There is such thing as too much quippy slapstick, you know? Especially when it's Sonic racing the clock to clear his own name. However, what I did kind of like, as worrying as it was for me as a fan and reader, was Sonic's interactions with the others when he was accused of treason. I said earlier that the characters felt villainized, but after all of the nonsense and blind thinking that Sonic did in number 39 to get himself roboticized, I think I would grow to dislike him too, especially after his actions caused Knothole to be freaking burnt down. It was all serious stuff, and it was neat to see the characters respond in kind. So, average score for the story and characters. Yeah, you know where this is going. A3. Dave Manek did fine on art. It was very slapstick, and we saw a lot of angry Sonic in this issue. Like, he reached levels of a rabid animal here. The fight scenes between Sonic and various cartoony antagonists were done okay, even if I felt that there was still too much of it. I liked Spaz's totally not clashing art style when they reused art from Mecha Madness. Yeah, that was about it. But overall, I'd say that the art was underwhelming. Because of that, the art gets a score of 2. Final score for Sonic the Hedgehog number 40 is a 5 out of 10. And so, the Mecha Madness saga comes to an end. It was certainly a sliding scale of quality. I should have guessed that its highest points would be the mecha battles, and the rest feeling more like unnecessary additions. but I'm glad to have read through the whole thing and gave my honest thoughts on it finally. For the next video, I'm going for a change of pace. Yeah, remember when I said I would go through only bunches of issues and skip out the ones that I feel are not worthy of a video? Yeah, I've changed my mind on that. Sorry, I can be a bit fickle, but at least I'm open about it. So, where did I leave off? Issue 30? Jesus Christ. Next video, a single video on issue number 31. Yep, to increase publicity, I'm gonna do them one video at a time now. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are, and I'll see you in the next video.